This video will focus on glands of the skin called cutaneous glands. There are 5 types. We'll work through all of them. But just to remember, a gland is a cell or group of cells. Sometimes we think about it like a whole organ, but it's really not. A cell or group of cells that's secreting a substance. So sometimes that substance is going to a different area, or sometimes it's being released from the body. So let's look at these sweat glands first. We're going to talk about the 2 types of sweat glands, merocrine and apocrine. They really do the same function. Their naming was a little bit of an error. So merocrine sweat glands, they are different from apocrine because their tubular glands go directly to the skin surface. So that's how you can tell them apart. They still have the same function, but their glands or their tubes go right to the skin surface, and we have lots of them, 3 to 4 million in adult skin. They're all over our body. We know that we sweat. That is watery perspiration. It helps to cool the body, and so that perspiration comes up and out the skin surface. So the other type of sweat gland, again, they do the same thing. It's really just where they kind of feed into. The other type is apocrine, and their ducts lead to hair follicles. So same function, they're still doing that perspiration, secreting that perspiration, but in this point it goes to the hair follicles. And we don't have these everywhere, but we have them where we have hair. So groin, anal region, axilla, areola, and then a bearded area in men. They have the same type of secretion, but more, because the portion is larger than that of merocrine glands. We also have scent glands. They respond to stress and sexual stimulation, and they are developed at puberty. So their response is to produce pheromones. Pheromones are not just in humans, they're in lots of other species as well. They're chemicals that influence the physiology of our behavior of that species. So we have usually a response to those pheromones. And it's not necessarily that they have a disagreeable odor. That's not always true. The disagreeable odor comes from bacterial action on the secretion. So our sweat starts as a filtrate from the blood plasma. It doesn't have any proteins in it, and so that's where kind of what it originates as. But then all of these things listed, these ions, urea, ammonia, are reabsorbed by the duct, and then some drugs can also be excreted in sweat. But on average, sweat is 99% water. Its pH range is from 4 to 6, so it's a little bit acidic, and we would expect insensible perspiration to look like 500 milliliters per day, but that doesn't produce the visible wetness, so that would just be perspiration that we can't visibly see. But then sweating, we do expect some wetness, and this is caused, of course, by exercise. And then when that's happening, we could expect 1 liter of sweat per hour. Next type of gland are the sebaceous glands. I usually just call these oil glands because it's easier, but they produce sebum, which is an oily secretion. They are flask-shaped glands, and they have short ducts, so they're much closer to the epidermis than sweat glands. And they open into the hair follicle, and you'll see they kind of look, I don't even know that I would call them flask-shaped, but to me they look like kind of bubbly. And so they are kind of distributing or putting this oil into the hair follicles, and that keeps your skin and hair from becoming dry, brittle, and cracked. You're probably familiar with lanolin, which is oil in sheep. So there they are, kind of sticking out next to that hair follicle. That's not really the best picture. I'm hoping you have a much better picture in your lab manual. This is not my favorite. Next up are some glands that we see only in our external ear canal, and those glands have ducts that lead to the skin surface, and they are ceruminous glands. glands because they are secreting earwax. Earwax is technically sebum, that oil, and also dead epithelial cells. So those together is what earwax is made of. It helps keep our eardrum pliable and waterproofs that canal and kills bacteria. Also, we know we have mammary glands. Breasts of both sexes have these glands, but they have very little glandular material. So they're milk-producing glands. They're developing during pregnancy for lactation, and they are similar to apocrine sweat glands, but they have a richer secretion, and being milk or pre-milk, and those ducts open at the nipple. Most mammals, you would see 2 rows of mammary glands, but the most anterior glands are the ones that persist in primates. But, there's always exceptions. You could expect to see some additional nipples or, other kind of abnormalities of these glands.